Good evening. Good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Working Wednesdays broadcast. Excited. excited about tonight's broadcast. So let's go ahead and get started tonight. Good evening, Apostle Stephen. Good evening. Thanks for joining. I am excited about getting started tonight. And I believe tonight I would like to start with prayer. I believe it's going to be an awesome time talking with author LaKita Gordon. So I'm excited about bringing her on very shortly. Good evening, LaKita. Thanks for getting on. I want to handle my preliminaries and then we're going to go ahead and get you on. Good evening, Matt. Good evening. Thanks for joining, everyone. This is our Working Wednesdays broadcast. I am your host, Audrea V. Good evening, Mary. Thanks for joining. I'm your host, Audrea V. And I am the owner, manager, operator. Anitra, thanks for hopping over. Good evening again. I am the owner, manager, and operator visionary for IBG Publications. And so I'm so excited about tonight's broadcast. I'm excited. We are in the month of May. We're actually rounding out May. We got one more week in May. Next week, I'm going to keep y'all posted on our time. We might switcheroo again because I may have to travel on Wednesday to go up and celebrate my niece's graduation. We got some family good stuff coming up in the next month. So I'm excited about my niece's accomplishment and being able to see her get her life started. So next week, we may be a little off schedule. We may either be Tuesday or we may be earlier up in Wednesday. So I'll keep everybody posted, but we are staying consistent and we are getting on every week so we can bring you stories that are life-changing to help you on your journey. I know we get on talking about books, but this is about really encouraging someone to know that you can get your journey, going and all that kind of good stuff to throw me off. But this is for encouragement, y'all. Let me just take off the mask for a minute, not the full mask, but but this is really to encourage someone. We talk about books because books have been the end result of people's journey. But it's really about encouraging you what happened through the journey. And so I love bringing on authors who talk about their life experience, who talk about how God has strengthened them and blessed them to make it through and to assist them to get to where they can help someone else. The Bible says that when you are converted, to strengthen your brother, strengthen someone else. So when you go through something and you come out victorious, it is for the purpose of helping someone else. It's for the purpose of giving someone else the same thing that you got, that victory in God. So this is what this is about every week. And of course, we want you to go buy our author's books. Of course, we want you to do that. But it's mainly to strengthen and encourage someone to know that God can do it. And anyone who's been following me for a long time, you know that my journey over this live has evolved a whole lot. There was a time that I did not like getting on live at all. I had to force myself to get on. And then I did some Bible study. And then God just continued to evolve me because my ministry place is the market. And I've talked about my struggle with pastoring and all of that. But I have found where I belong. I belong as encouraging through marketplace ministry for business and authors and entrepreneurs. That is my vein of authority, my vein of success. It's a personal journey for me, but for the most part, I love to encourage someone else. So let's get moving, y'all. We're not going to stay there all night. This broadcast is sponsored by Second Shots Photography. Second Shots Photography is a premier wedding and event photographer out of Houston, Texas. His name is Edward Hurd, and you can find them on the World Wide Web at secondshotsphotography.com. You can find them there. Reach out. They travel. So if you are in another part of the country and you love their work, they will travel to you. Now, they are not cheap, but they do astronomical work. And I can brag because that's my brother and he does excellent work. Weddings, lifestyle event, all that kind of good stuff. If you want to take your image or your brand to the next level, Second Shots will help you do that. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get our author on tonight because I'm excited to go ahead and bring her on. Sidebar, Latoya, I do not believe I have you. Do I have you scheduled to come on working Wednesdays? Chime in the comment box, Latoya. Do I have you on to come on for working Wednesdays? Because I need to get you on. And if I don't, we're going to make that happen in July. I got some slots open in July. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and get our author on tonight. So I hope you're ready. Let me know you're coming on. I'm adding you on. So it's adding our author on tonight.
Oh, there I am.
Yes,
Hi.
there you are. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. We're getting some feedback. Are you got headphones?
No.
No?
No.
All right. Let's see. I just eliminate that. Do you hear the
No, I don't hear it.
No?
No.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, for those listening, can you please like, share, tag the video so we can get some more people watching with us? We got some good stuff set up, so I want to get some more viewers on. So everybody listening, can you please like, share the video?
Okay, I hear the feedback now. I'm on my iPad. Should I switch to my phone, maybe?
Yeah, let's try that. Let's try that.
All right.
Oh, somebody can't hear anymore.
They don't hear it anymore?
Okay, let's take you off now and then bring you back on your phone.
Okay, I have it right here. Okay.
All right. Okay, y'all, we just want to get everything cleared up because we were getting a little feedback. Okay, somebody else said they could hear just fine. Somebody else said they can't. But I was getting a lot of feedback, so I want to eliminate that feedback because it can become very annoying. So let's try to get her back on her phone. Let's try that. And okay.
Okay, do you hear it better now?
It is so much better.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
It's okay. We fixed that little kink, so that is okay. All right. So, good evening. How are you tonight?
Good evening. I'm great. How are you? Hi, everybody.
Good evening. So so she's saying she can hear now. So what must have been the feedback. But for those listening, please like, share, tag, send us some hearts so we can get some people on. We got an awesome lady on tonight. I'm so excited about her being here,
Yes.
sharing her journey. I just been excited because I just love your energy. I love your spirit. I love every morning how you get up with your JSO uniform on.
Thank
Y'all
you.
be careful. She got the authority to arrest y'all. So
No, ma'am. I work in a jail, so if they come to jail, then I'll see them.
so you can get them when they already got arrested. Okay. Yes. All right. Well, we are so excited to have you on tonight. Good evening and welcome to those who are chiming in with us. I'm so excited to have her on. So go ahead and greet the viewers for us tonight. Go ahead and greet our viewers.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks so much for having me. This is exciting. Thank y'all so much.
All right. That's all you got to say tonight?
Yeah. Oh, I got plenty more to say. I can talk all night now. What you want to say? This is very exciting.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. I can read a bio, but tell us more about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to the place where you are right now. We'll talk about the book shortly, but just kind of tell us about yourself and maybe how you got into law enforcement. What was your passion for that? Talk about some of that.
Well, I'm LaKita Gordon. For those who don't know me, I just turned the big 40. I've been married for
Okay.
17 years.
Awesome.
I have a 15-year, almost 16-year-old daughter, and I have a twin sister. And over time, since I was little, I wanted to be in law enforcement. Since I had an encounter with a police officer, not a bad one, but if you read the book, you're going to find out what I'm talking about. And ever since then, I wanted to go in the military and I wanted to be a police officer. So I said, hey, why don't I go in the military to be a police officer? But that didn't work out. The military thing didn't work out. And
Mm,
so I always had a passion to help people in that way. And I've always had a passion for, I guess, in being an investigator, asking questions, trying to figure things out, and also showing people a different side. Because nowadays, what do we see in the media about law enforcement? It's kind of all
right,
bad, but
right,
it's not all bad. You're
right.
not all bad. And so I have a passion to just show people a different light. I like to, like you said on your other broadcast earlier, leave people in a better place. After they encounter me, I want them to feel better about something.
Right.
And in law enforcement, you have the opportunity to do that because you get to meet people at their lowest point. So
Mm.
at their lowest point, you can only go up. And so, hey, I like to help people go up.
That's good. And you saying that because like I said about, when you post in the morning, your posts are always, you one of those people I don't just scroll by. I gotta say, hey Queen, good morning, great rising,
Yes.
because when I see your picture, I see, that light that shines from within you, and I see the joy and the passion that you
Oh,
have for life. So it blesses me to be able to greet you every morning. And I want to sidebar this because we often take is putting me in a place of saying that how much we take life for granted, how
ooh,
much we don't realize that just being able to see another day is a blessing.
yes.
And there's actually an author I know from my hometown, and I don't even think she was 40 yet, and she passed away.
Hmm.
And I remember watching her over the years, and she's a fellow author, so that's why I want to share. But I
Mm-hmm.
remember watching her over the years, and she was putting out like book after book after book after book. And then she was a nurse, and she just launched a nurse's apparel line, and they were planning for their launch on June 1st. So looking at her, she was not planning to die. And I'm saying this
Yeah.
because I want you all to pull from her life-giving energy tonight. This woman wasn't planning to die. She was planning to launch her clothing line on June
Right.
1st. But I don't know all the circumstances, but I woke up this morning to rest in peace. So
Hmm.
I want you to listen to LaKita's story tonight, and I want you to get life because I believe that's what she bring for us tonight.
Well,
Life. So let's talk about what inspired you to write your first book and who was a major influence in that process of getting your first book done.
well, let me tell you all, I would have never, ever written a book in my life. It just wasn't my decision. I was too afraid to do it because, I mean, this is my life. For one, people are going to get to know me and see me, and when they see me, they're going to look at me like, "What in the world has happened to you?" And so I was afraid of what my parents might say. And so my husband was a really big influence because for 10 years straight, 10 years,
Mm.
almost like twice, two, three times a week, he would say, "You need to write a book." And I would tell him, dude, don't nobody want to hear that. Who want to hear that? And he's like, well, you have a story. I'm like, and so does everybody else. So what do I need to write one for? And then people are going to be looking at me and knowing me. And then I got to a point where I couldn't sleep anymore. Like it
Wow.
would just play over and over. And I had no peace. And if anybody knows me, they know that peace is my number one thing. I don't care about the money. I don't care about a lot of things. They don't move me, but my peace is number one. And so when I got to the point where I lost that, I said, okay, it's time to cleanse myself, cleanse my spirit, and get this out of me. And it was a
Mm.
big help. So Leroy was a big, big help. And then my peace. The good Lord said, write a book. You need to write it because it's not for you. This is not for you. You've
Yeah.
been through it, but it's not for you. It's for somebody else because there's
Right.
so many people going through the same thing.
Yes, yes. That is so good. You said that because the first thing you said is that it was going to cleanse you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that when you write a book, it starts with you.
Oh, wow.
It helps you get something that's in you out. And
Yes,
that is how healing happens. Healing can only happen when you get what's there out. It's not going to
absolutely.
happen with that thing staying dormant. And it may not be a bad thing that's staying dormant. And
Right.
this was a good thing that was dormant, but it was healing for you to get it out. So
Yeah.
that's the first thing. And then the second thing you said was it's supposed to help someone else. And
Yes.
a lot of people don't realize that when we write, it's not just for us. And I'm a
Right.
Bible teacher, and the Bible says that when we are converted, we're supposed to go and strengthen someone else.
Right.
So what we're
Abs-
going through is not just for us. So you're saying the key that people need to hear tonight. It's not just for us. It is for those who are gonna pick it up and read it.
Absolutely.
Because you want it into the hands of your reader. So talk about what your book is about. Tell us what is. I know you said you had to get it out. Your husband was a good driving force behind that. So God bless you. I think I saw his. Let me see if I can guess your husband's name. Now, Kenyon is your twin, right?
Kenyon is my sister-in-law.
Your sister-in-law. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
My twin is
Leroy.
LaKita.
Leroy is your husband?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So he said, hey, hey now. So
Yes.
you talked about he was a good driving force, and it's good to have that support system. And that's a long time for 10 years to be telling you to get it out. So talk about what was it you had to get out? What was in you that was there and you had to get it out?
Well, my book is called The Other Side of Addiction. I will never claim to be an addict. I have never been an addict.
Hmm.
And we see the things that addicts go through. We look at them and we see the physical changes, the physiological changes, the emotional changes, changes in their moods and their behaviors, but we never get to hear about how the addiction affects the children who are left
Hmm.
to basically fend for
Got,
themselves.
got,
And so I endeavor to be the voice of those people who don't get to tell their story. Yes, my parents, both my parents were addicts my whole life. And yes, we got to see what it did to them, but nobody ever asked what it did to me
wow.
and my twin sister. And so my book pretty much is a book of strength and it's a book of encouragement. It's not a parent bashing book because I'm not angry about anything, never really have been. But
Hmm.
it's a book of strength and encouragement to let people know that you can make it. I work in a place where there's a bunch of angry people, but
Hmm.
nobody ever takes the time to find out why they're
Right,
angry.
right,
We weren't born to be angry. We weren't created to be angry.
right.
We're created to help others and to be a light. And you can't do that when you're angry. And so I tell personal stories about things that have happened in my life, about how I was left stranded in drug houses, didn't know where
Hmm.
my parents were for
Wow,
weeks. My twin and I walking the streets at 7 years old, 3 o'clock in the morning, not having a place to go, being around drugs and needles and other addicts that we had no clue who they were because we were in
wow,
somebody else's house. And so I
wow.
give personal experiences like that in my book.
Wow. So when you were going through that, even as a child, were there fears that were there? Because when you get around people like that, I haven't personally experienced that, so I only know what I've seen or heard. TV shows you things, but you had the real life experience of it. So
Yes.
my question is, were you ever like in fear of, being sold? Because a lot of times people will take young kids and sell them off for drugs and things of that nature. So did you ever have that fear, or did you ever experience those kinds of things, or was it just where you were in that atmosphere?
My main fear was, where are my parents alive? Number one, as a kid, you rely on your parents. Like, you deal with bullying at school with other kids, and kids can be harsh, and they're more harsh nowadays than they were when I was in
Right.
elementary school. And so you have to deal with foolishness at school. You come home and there's no guidance. There's nobody to tell you it's okay, or you don't know where your next meal is going to be. So I was in fear of my life, my parents being alive, what would
Mm-hmm.
happen to my twin and I. We had my grandmother, but she was sick a lot. She worked a lot. And so we were burdened with that. Not really burdened, I hate to use that word, but it was a task for us to take care of my elderly grandmother who was sick, and then my
Wow.
mother took on my three little cousins because my aunt, her sister, was an addict.
Mm,
So it was just a lot of pressure. I was fearful of, just where my parents were. As a
mm,
as a child, you want your mother and your father, even though they were never
right,
married, you
right,
want your parents to tell you it's okay, that everything's going to be
right.
fine, to protect you. And I felt like we had no protection. So
Wow. Wow. When did things finally break to where you weren't on the streets anymore? You weren't, worried about where your parents are, all those fears that you say you dealt with. What age or in what time of your life do you felt like that broke for
when I graduated high school,
you? Okay.
the probably the week after I graduated, and my parents still had struggles even after then. It wasn't until I was out on my own living with my twin and we had our own place. It wasn't until then that I felt safe because I was in control of my life. I was working and making my own money. I kind of was trying to figure life out. So it wasn't until that point until I was like, hey, I can breathe a little bit. I
Right.
mean, despite all the emotional pain I was experiencing, I felt like finally I'm in control, so I got this. And now I can relax a little bit because my twin and I, although we were in the same house, we have two completely different stories. We dealt
Oh,
with this thing two completely different ways.
right.
So it
Right.
wasn't until I was about 19, 18 or 19 that I finally could sit back and breathe for a moment.
Wow. Did it affect you graduating high school and, goals and things you want to do with your life? Did it affect that?
I was a pretty focused girl, so it didn't really affect that. I was always a straight A student, like had no real issues in school. I'm surprisingly working off of 2 and 3 hours of sleep a night and
Wow.
not eating for 2 or 3 days. I mean, I could have been really distracted, but I somehow, the grace of God, I
Wow.
stayed focused. And my main goal was finishing school, and I love school because it was my getaway. It was my time to have some peace in my life. I felt like at that point I had some control over my day, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to focus on being hungry because I ate at school. I didn't
Right.
have to focus
Right.
on, so much of hearing the curse words from my parents and all the names and
Mm-hmm.
seeing them in the condition that they were. So school was
Right.
my release. That was my focus, and it was pretty easy.
Wow. Do you feel like that life that you live, does it give you a level of compassion for those you come in contact with, dealing with criminals and, people who are in and out of jail? Do you feel like it gives you, a level of compassion for them?
Oh, yes. And I thank God every day I get to wake up and go inside of that jail to work in that building. And people look at me and like, what in the world? It is the best, it is the best decision I've ever made because again,
Wow.
these are people at their lowest point. They hear enough of, hey, you're a criminal. You did this, you did that. You're a scum of the earth because you've been here 50 times. Nobody, they know that. But
Right.
what they don't get to hear a lot of is, hey, God still loves you. You can
Yeah.
still make it out of this.
Yeah.
You're strong. You're beautiful, just like you are.
Yeah.
Celebrate your 1 day of sobriety, your 10 days of
Right.
sobriety. It
Right.
doesn't matter how many times you've been here. And it gives me such great passion to go and be able to let people see a different side of the person behind the badge. And that's
Yeah.
why I love my profession. I love it because of that.
That's good. You know what I saw, and seems like lately what I've been doing is kind of prophesying to people who come on. But I saw you writing the stories of those that you come in contact with. I don't know if you've ever thought about doing that or sharing their side, because you're showing you weren't the person addicted, but you're showing the side of, how it affects the persons that are not. So,
Yeah.
I see you writing from the perspective of watching people whose lives are in limbo, or they've done something. I see you writing from that perspective. And then I also see you including some of the stories of some of the ones that you dealt with, because just like them, they might have just gotten dealt a bad hand. You didn't get caught up in the system, but they may have reacted in a different way to the same lifestyle that you experience.
Yes.
So you're able to tell their side, because I only spent one night in jail, y'all, so I ain't got no whole lot of jail experience. But I know from the one night I stayed in there how misjudged I was from making a bad choice. You
Yep.
know, and a lot of people just got in a predicament where they made a bad choice, and then because they didn't have the proper guidance, they didn't have the proper people speaking into their life, then they maybe keep returning to the system or still can't find their way in life. You know, you have some people, they are routine offenders because they spend so much life in jail, they don't know how to function even on the outside.
Absolutely.
You know, so I see you, and I don't, like I said, I don't know if you thought about doing it, but I do see you, you know, telling that side of being, you know, an officer, especially, you know, with the impression that people get about officers from the media. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know, had you thought about doing something like that?
That's great that you said that because I'm 13 pages into that project already.
Wow.
13 pages in already. And
Wow.
nobody knew that. No one.
Wow. Wow.
Oh
Look
my
at
goodness. So funny.
God.
Yes.
Look
13
at
pages
God.
in so far.
Wow. So
Yep.
that's your confirmation
Yep.
to keep on doing it, because people need to, you know, especially the bad hype that the law enforcement gets. You know,
Yes.
people need to see that there are officers who really are compassionate and are not what the media is projecting. And the
Yes.
sad part about it is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the sad part about it is you probably got about, I'd say, 5 to 10% of law enforcement who is that way, but they project it like it's 90% that are that way.
I would even venture to say a little bit less than that. Once you're
Okay.
inside and you on that other side and you see so many beautiful, wonderful human beings that wear that badge, that do so many great things that the media will never ever show you. They will never tell you that we're out doing things for the community. And I'm involved in a lot of the community things throughout the year that they never even televise. There's no
Right.
photographer taking pictures. They
Right.
never say anything about that. So I would probably say about 2% of
Okay.
those that kind of
Okay.
mess it up for everybody else. But of course,
Okay.
when the media expands or magnifies that 2%, it makes it look like you said, like it's 95 or
Right.
99% or whatever. It's
Right.
just ridiculous.
Right, exactly. So let me ask you this. I know you talked about, well, you talked more about, we talked about your experience. So writing the book, getting it out, how has it impacted you? And what do you wish?
Helped to cleanse me a lot. I thought I was whole until I was like, okay, so I gave my life to Christ when I was 19, and I was like, okay, I'm whole, and I thought that I would immediately feel just brand new and just immediately like, hey, here's this whole new magical life, and I'm cleansed of all my emotional pains. Not so. It helped to actually cleanse me, and having to edit this thing and read it and relive it over and over and over again was painful. Let
Wow.
me tell you, that's one of the most painful things I've ever done in my life because
Wow.
it was just super emotional. But now I can talk about it without crying and without busting out. And I mean, I still get a little emotional at parts, during part 7 when I speak to different groups of people.
Right.
But I mean, it helped to cleanse me so much. And now I can just stand up bravely, courageously, and speak to somebody else and let them know, look, you can make it out of this thing.
Hmm.
I know your parents have left you. Some parents have sold you into prostitution, but listen, it wasn't you. It's not your fault. You can make it out of this thing
Right.
because
Right.
there is a way. And
Right.
when readers pick up my book, I really want them, or when they purchase my book, I always tell people, read it, please. I just want you to read it. I've given away a lot of copies because I just want people to get this thing. I want people to read it, especially a lot of the people that I work with, a lot of my great brothers and sisters in blue, because it changes your perspective on how you treat people on a daily
Right.
basis.
Right.
And I really just want people to read this thing and know that you don't have to succumb to the things that you grew up from, the things that happened in your past. You don't have to become those things. I could be disgruntled. I should be technically the most disgruntled person on the earth, and I should really despise my parents. But guess what? I don't,
Right.
because I understand this thing and it's bigger than them. It is
Right.
bigger than the flesh that we see. There is something spiritual going
Right.
on, and a
Right.
lot of times people don't get that.
Right. Right.
Yes, they made bad choices. Yes, sometimes addiction is by choice and sometimes it's not. I'm a believer in that because if you are injured and a doctor prescribes you something, you don't intend to get hooked on it or addicted to it. You intend for the pain to take it for the pain to stop. And so sometimes it's intentional or out of curiosity and sometimes it's not. And so we just have to think about no matter what happens in our lives, no matter what we become, we are human beings first, and you should at first treat people just like that, despite
Right.
what clothes they have on, despite what they say out of their mouths. And so I want people to get that from my book because it explains that we are a lot of imperfect people. And if anybody stands on earth and says they're perfect, I'm gonna kind of look at you sideways. Like that doesn't it makes no sense. None of us are
Right.
perfect. So we don't have the right to treat people badly or point the finger because we've all done things.
Right. Right. Some people are saying the audio is messing up. I don't know what's going on. Do you have any other devices that are playing this? Because I'm catching the feedback. It's not as bad as it was, but I am catching a little of the feedback. Is there
No,
any?
nothing else. I
No?
turned the iPad completely off, so I don't have anything else on.
Okay. I don't know what's going on. It seems like some people are hearing and some aren't, because some people saying it's good stuff. Some people saying the audio's messing up. So, okay. So someone says it sounds good to me. So that must be y'all devices.
Sorry.
Yeah, few people saying it looks sounds good to me. So it must be the couple people who it's not coming clear. It's got to be your device because I got more people saying it's fine than anything. But let me give a couple shout outs to some people that I know joined on. Minister Leela Davis, good evening. Good evening. Yeah,
Hi.
audio's good. Yeah, everybody's pretty much saying it sounds pretty good. So good
Okay.
evening, Minister Leela. James Holmes, good evening. Thanks for joining this week, James. Demetria, thanks for joining. Selena, Jen, thanks for coming over. Elonda, Prophetess Sherry, Prophetess Elonda. Emmanuel, thanks for joining tonight.
Hey.
Daryl Cohen, thanks for joining. Latanya, thanks for joining. Dr. Clark, Lakani, Anitra, Mary. We got quite a few people on tonight. And Apostle Stephen Lane.
Hey. All right.
Good evening, everyone. So tell everybody real quick where they can go purchase your book.
Right now, I only have it on Amazon, or they can purchase it from me. But on Amazon, if you type in my name or the book title, The Other Side of Addiction, and I have a copy here so y'all can see what it looks like.
Yes.
This is my baby. You can find this on Amazon right now, or you can get it through me again through Cash App. I do Cash App, and it's $ LaKita Gordon.
All right. So that's where you all can go purchase her book. That's Amazon.com. Type her name in
Yes,
LaKita, LaKita Gordon. In the
yes.
search engine, it comes right up. It is called The Other Side of Addiction. You can purchase there, but let me tell y'all what to do. When you purchase on Amazon, leave a review. Because
Please.
yeah, when you leave a review, it gives her a stronger presence over the internet. Okay, so make sure y'all leave a good review. Okay,
Yes.
all right. So, do you have? I know we. So I snatched away this question, but so you do have a book that you're working on.
I
I
have
know I
two.
two. Okay, so let's talk about what you have coming down the pipeline. What are the books that you have coming up going to be about?
Well, the part two to The Other Side of Addiction, I'm not sure if the title is going to be the same, but it's going to be part two because I've already started. I'm about halfway into that because the issues didn't stop when I ended this book at the age of 19 or
Wow.
20. So I took some issues into my marriage and into my adulthood that people need to know about because I'm
Yeah.
not perfect and I like people to know that I'm not perfect. So there's a
Mhm.
part two to that. And then the
Okay.
women in law enforcement, the one that you already mentioned. That's not the title, but I'm already 13 pages into that one.
All right. Do you have any projections for finishing those projects?
I gave myself, I know it sounds like it's a long ways away, but I gave myself until the end of the year to be done with the women in law enforcement one, for
Okay.
sure.
Okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's a good timeline.
Yes.
Remember our tips from our training. Don't wait till it comes out to promote.
Yes.
So
Yes,
promote, promote, promote. So this is your first. I don't know if this is the first time you're promoting it, but for
it
those that
is.
are okay. So for those who are following author LaKita Gordon, she'll be coming with her new book, projecting for December. So be prepared to pre-order your copy. I believe
Yes.
it's gonna be hot off the press, so don't wait. Get your copy and pre-order it now. We're gonna work on her launch page so she can
Yes.
get her orders rolling in. So that
Yes.
is so good, and I'm so glad that God led us into that, because like we were talking about, when it comes to the law enforcement, how it is so misrepresented. And
Yes.
like I said earlier, it just blesses me how you get on with that glowing smile every morning
Oh,
and
thank you.
greet us and tell us to have a good day. And then you've got a word of encouragement. We need that encouragement, especially people who get up and don't want to go to work that day.
Okay.
You need a word of encouragement sometime,
Yes.
because you got the boss down your back and co-workers and all that stuff. So we need those words of encouragement. So what is
Indeed.
something that you'd like to share with the viewers, if they want to write a book? What's something that you would share with them?
I know y'all probably hear this, and you'll probably hear me say this to anyone I ever talk to. Just start writing. The hardest thing for me was to start writing. I wanted to make it pretty. I wanted to make it sound better than it was. And I'm talking about my personal life, my experience writing the book.
Right,
I wanted to make it so that people would be like, oh, your life was glorious. Well, it wasn't.
right,
And the hardest thing was to just write. It didn't have to rhyme. It didn't have to be look like anybody else's book. And that's another thing I got caught up in, reading other books, because I'm a reader. And I'm like, man, what if my book doesn't sound like theirs, look like theirs? And I had no clue on what I was doing. But I
right,
said, you know what? Good, bad, or indifferent, I'm going to write. I don't care what it turns out to be. It doesn't have to rhyme or look pretty. I'm going to
right,
write. So
right.
have some courage and write. It will cleanse you. It will change your life. So just start writing. Start there. You can make changes all day long. Just start it.
That's good. That's really good, because people, we procrastinate so much
Yes.
because, like I said, we want things to be so perfect, and we want nothing in this world will ever be perfect. And guess what? You can put the book out, but then later you may need to revamp it.
Yes.
You may need to redo it, because it's just the point of getting it done, y'all. The
Yes.
excuse,
Do it.
yes, just get it done. The excuses are so outdated. They are so outdated, and there are so many resources out there. There's so many people. I'm not the only person telling folks to write a book.
Yes.
There are so many things that are out there. Of course, I'm going to direct you to me because I know I can help. But at the same time, if you don't like me and you don't like my methods, there are things that are out there that can help you get it done. So like,
Everyone likes you. Don't say that. Everyone likes you.
everybody like me. I would
Just
like
saying.
to, like you said, we not perfect. I would like to believe everybody like me, but everybody didn't like Jesus.
I know, right?
So it is what it is. It comes with the territory,
Yep.
And sometimes I don't mind being hated, because it tells me
Me either.
I'm doing something right, because you got a reason to hate me, because
Yep.
I don't intend to do anything wrong. So, but nevertheless, get started, y'all. Y'all heard her say get started, so what was your process when you were completing? Did you, because I always talk about how I completed, did you just sit and you did it in a week or a month, or how long did it take you to actually sit and write it and get it done?
Well, my excuse was, hey, I'm always working. I'm always doing this. I'm in school. I'm in college. And then I got laid off from my job. And I said, hey, no more excuses. I got time now. So, and in 2 months, about 2 months and 2 days flat, because it's my story, it's my truth, easy to write. It took me about 2 months to write it. And the publishing, I went through a traditional publisher, a
Oh, wow.
publishing company initially. And
Okay.
so the entire process took me about 9 months,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
9 months
Okay.
total.
So you got a traditional deal?
I had a traditional one. It was published initially back in 2014, and then just about 2, 3 years ago, the publisher was closed down, arrested for embezzlement, and so I
Wow.
learned my lesson that way. I said I won't be doing that again because I'm
Okay.
out thousands of dollars, of course. And so
Wow.
this time I went on Fiverr, that website that I love, and I got there. I got the publisher's name taken off. I got a new barcode and everything on it, a new
Okay.
cover done through somebody on Fiverr, and I self-published it myself
Okay.
this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. That's good to hear. And let me tell y'all, let me sidebar with that real quick, y'all, because uh if you're not educated, the Bible says my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. And when we
Yep.
set out and we do something, you got to get educated. That's why I'm
Absolutely.
so big on educating people, because
Yes.
people sign, we are ambitious and we strive, we want to get something done, but when we do it in ignorance, ignorance is not always bliss, because
Mm-hmm.
ignorance can put you in a predicament where you can lose the rights to what you have written, your own story.
Yes.
You can lose the
Yes.
rights to your own story.
Yes.
So before y'all sign those deals, reach out to me. Ask me, is this feasible? Can this be done for less money? Am I getting my money's worth?
Mm.
Because a lot of times, what they did for you was they really just self-published you. They just
Yep.
did the work that you didn't do. That's
Exactly.
that's what they did. And so when you're not educated, it's so easy. Like you had to go and really re-spend on the same project
Exactly.
in order to get it back.
And
So
I've done that already, let me tell you. Oh.
okay, all right. So get educated, get it done, but get educated about the process before you just put your work out there.
Yes.
Okay. So before we sign off, what are some final words you'd like to give for our viewers tonight before we sign off?
I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but don't be selfish. Okay, again, your gifts are not for you. They're never intended to be for you. They are to serve the people who need them. And you
Right.
never know who's waiting on you specifically to give them that hug, that word of encouragement, that smile, that silly thing, whatever it is. You never know who's waiting on that. And so why be rude and hold people up? I
Right.
want you to get writing. Nobody can tell your story better than you can,
Yeah.
and you should not let anybody tell your story. It's yours. It doesn't
Right.
have to be pretty, or it doesn't have to be like anybody else's. It's yours for a reason. It's yours
Right.
to share. Share the
Right.
gift. Just
That's
saying.
good. That's good. That's good because when you, like you said, when you read your story back, it's a different experience. People don't
Yeah.
understand that until you go through it, because when you write it, it's one thing, but
Yes.
when you print it out and you read it in black and white, it's a whole different experience. Whole
Yes.
different. I was like you, when I wrote my first book, it was like, I wrote it and I was okay. That was a healing process just to write it.
Yes.
But then when I printed it and I was like, whoa, this is my story. And it was bringing tears to my eyes.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
did I go through this? This my story? So once you get through, those are hurdles, everybody. Once you get through those hurdles and once you get through, this is my story, I'm sharing it with the world. And then watch this, y'all. Writing it is healing, reading it back is healing, but then when you start talking about it to people you
Yes.
never met, then
Yes.
that becomes a different form of healing. And then the
Yes.
more you talk about it, the more comfortable you feel, and the more you understand what she just said. What you went through is to bless someone else.
Yep.
It's not just for you to sit on it and say, oh, I had a great experience, God. No, when thou art converted, strengthen thy brother. Okay?
Yes.
So you have a responsibility to go back and get someone else. It's a
Yep.
responsibility because you don't know who's sitting in chains because they're waiting to hear from you. You know,
Yes.
and literally, you deal with people who are chained up every.
Yes.
So they might be
Literally.
in physical chains, but you have the ability to help them loose the mental chains,
Yes.
to get into that space where they can understand that even though they got the physical, it does not control and dictate who they are and who they're destined to be. Only their actions can stop that.
Yes.
So this is blessing me. I hope someone listening that this is blessing you today,
Yes.
especially we wasn't, I didn't know we was gonna go as much into the law enforcement piece, but I should have known. But it's necessary for people to hear, especially, and I know I can't say it enough, that media portrayal about police officers and that all are bad when that is not the case. So
That's
I
not
certainly
true.
thank you so much
Thank
for coming on
you.
tonight. We so appreciate you all. For those still joining, good evening, Troy. So good to see you on tonight. Good evening, Shawanda. and Karen. Good evening for those who are still coming on. You can still like, share, and tag the video because people can catch the replay. If you're listening to it, if you're in the replay, put hashtag replay because we want everyone to be blessed by the story of the other side of addiction.
Yes.
So I'm
Thank you so much for having me again. I
You're
really
very
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you so much for coming on tonight. And for those who do not know me, I am Audrea Hurd. I am the owner and manager of IBG Publications. If you are considering writing a book or you are thinking about it, join us in our IBG Writers Group. That is where you can get all the same information we're talking tonight. We share a lot of things in the group. Everybody contributes, does their part. I share a lot, but the other authors who are in there help us all in our journey.
Yes.
And then we have some very valuable tools over there, such as our marketing plan. If you're trying to get started, we have training videos on writing, getting it finished, getting it done, choosing the right publishing option rather. That's another video I did a few months ago. So I'm going to repost that video too, because what you're saying about what you experience, a lot of people are having that experience.
Yes.
Especially authors who come to me who've already published, and then they either didn't get a proper copyright, or they don't know how to get royalties, or they signed a deal and they don't even know if their book is selling or not.
Right.
So these are things that are important to know, because it's not about writing a book and putting it on a shelf. We write our books to get them into the hands of those who need to be reading our books.
Right.
So you can join us in the IBG Writers Group. If you'd like to schedule a one-on-one consultation with me, you can find me at ibgpublications.com. And you can purchase my books there. We have other authors in the IBG family. I say we're family, so we got all kind of people. And you don't have to be under my umbrella to be in the group. Everybody is welcome, because everybody has a different experience. So you're welcome if you are writing a book, wrote a book, aspiring author. You're welcome to join us in the IBG Writers. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us Wednesday for the Working Wednesday broadcast. And we will be back on next week. We will be interviewing Dr. Charlotte Clark. Her book is called Health Now, The Rebirth of Mobile Medicine. So I'm so excited about her coming on, talking about her journey. Her mobile healthcare unit is a medical oasis. And so she's going to come on and talk about her experience as well. So we may be switching to Tuesday night. I will keep everybody informed if we come on Tuesday instead of Wednesday, because I may be traveling. So God bless you all. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. LaKita, thank you for coming on. God
Thanks
bless
for having
you.
me.
Keep serving us as a woman in law enforcement. I'm sure that's another set of challenges too. But but keep on protecting us. I salute you, Woman in Blue, and I thank you for your service to our community.
Thank you, Queen.
So much. You're welcome, Queen. Thanks for coming on tonight. God bless you all. Thanks for joining us on the Working Wednesdays, and have a God bless night. Thank you.
Good night.